Thank you, Corey. Over the last 2 days, we've heard several presentations regarding specific alternative feed ingredients for aquaculture feeds. I would like to review some of the ingredients I feel that have the potential to make a significant contribution, but before we do that, I would like to talk about the process we use in evaluating potential feed ingredients. And even before that, though, I want to talk a little bit about fish meal. In the last 2 days, we've heard several presentations regarding fish meal with limited supply, etc. But there's been little discussion on why fish meal and fish oil have been used so much in animal feeds over the years. Aquaculture now consumes most of it, but prior to the growth of aquaculture, the terrestrial animals were using quite a bit. Well, I believe that the reason fish meal and fish oil were used so extensively in the past was they carry with it many essential nutrients not found in other ingredients, specifically plant-based ingredients. It has a very good amino acid profile, contains amino acids such as taurine, which have been shown to be conditionally indispensable. It contains vitamins such as inositol, many macro and trace minerals it's a good source of, and the essential fatty acids EPA and DHA, which are the heart and brain healthy fatty acids, are found in high levels in fish oil and also in fish meal. So we're not really looking for fish meal replacements, because by analyzing all the good things in fish meal, we now know what we need to supplement into a plant-based diet or a fish meal free based diet in order to maintain good growth and good fish health and product quality. We've been able to demonstrate this in rainbow trout, Atlantic salmon, coho salmon, yellowtail, white sea bass, walleye, and many others. So what we're really looking for is more high quality protein and lipid sources so we can continue to expand the industry with sustainable ingredients. This slide shows the 7-step evaluation process we've developed for evaluating new ingredients in order to determine both the nutritional and economic value. The first step is compositional analysis. This is a measurement of all the nutrients and anti-nutrients found in the new product. The nutrients such as protein, energy, amino acids, fatty acids, etc., allows us to determine where this particular ingredient might fit into a diet formula. Anti-nutrients are substances developed by the plant for a protective or developmental role to keep those seeds from being consumed. Some anti-nutrients might give the bird a stomach ache. Plants such as barley developed physical barriers. There's a big spike coming off of each seed to keep from being consumed, where plants such as soybean have a lot of chemical compounds in them that we'll talk more about later. Some ingredients that we're not familiar with, we'd like to do a fry screening study, and this is done with first feeding fry. It's only a 6-week study, but they're growing very quickly then, and they have a naive digestive system. So we can determine the potential for that ingredient to move on, or do we have to go back and look at alternative processing techniques. One aspect of alternative feed ingredients that's very important for production is the effect of that ingredient on feed intake. And we can determine this by feeding the fish by hand to satiation, and then determining if the addition of that ingredient increased feed intake or decreased feed intake, or had no effect. And we have seen all three of those responses. Digestibility is a very important factor for these ingredients. It might have a very high crude protein level, but if the digestibility is low, then you're not really getting your bang for your buck. This, most of the time, really affects the price of the ingredient, not a go or no go. Most fish meals are in the 90% range for protein digestibility. Some algae meals are 30 to 40% protein digestibility. So they're not good protein sources, but they might have other attributes as well. Functionality is something that's very important to the feed manufacturer. This is how the ingredient affects the durability of the pellet, the oil absorption, the water stability. And for example, if an ingredient becomes highly viscous when it's hydrated in the extruder, it's going to increase electrical consumption and the dollars needed to produce a ton of feed, and that has to be reflected in the price of buying that ingredient, so on. Of course, there's always growth studies. We've got to put the ingredient into practical type diets and look at the effect on weight gain, feed conversion ratio. We'll do this through laboratory, pilot scale studies, third-party studies, and of course, before an ingredient's adopted on a wide scale, there are production scale studies done on commercial farms. The last step is the effect of the ingredient on waste management. This is particularly important for recirculating aquaculture systems and for flow-through aquaculture systems. We found that as we pull animal products, fish meal, poultry meal, out of a diet and replace them with plant-based ingredients, the fish get what can be termed diarrhea, very fine particulate feces that is difficult to remove by settling or through filtration, and so you end up with a pollution problem. Some ingredients cause larger, more durable feces, and so water quality is easier to maintain in that situation. Other important factors to consider is nutrient consistency. Feed manufacturers like to see an ingredient that is consistent in the level of protein, for example, from batch to batch. If it's fluctuating a lot, that can be dealt with through formulation, but with a limited number of ingredients on hand, sometimes that can be difficult. Consistent supply is also very important. If a feed manufacturer is depending upon that ingredient, it can't be available in January and unavailable in February. Handling and flowability is often overlooked, but a lot of these ingredients are moved through conveyors or bucket lifts, and if it's really dusty or clumpy and it doesn't flow well, that's going to hurt the production capacity. Scalability, is more of this ingredient available? Then, of course, cost per unit nutrient. Other environmental considerations include competition with human food, carbon footprint, and of course, water and land use. So there are three types of products that I want to review today. First is traditional but evolving. They've been used a lot, but there's new forms of them coming out. Second is underutilized co-products from food. And third, according to the FDA, is a new category that's not currently approved. But first, I want to talk about poultry byproduct meals, poultry meals. These have decades of research. This is probably the only ingredient that can substitute directly for fish meal on a one-to-one basis, except for the essential fatty acids. But it has a very similar protein level, amino acids, minerals similar to fish meal. Now, traditional rendering has been used in the past, but new products are being developed with alternative processing to give different nutrient contents and digestibilities. There's very large volumes of this material available because it's a co-product of chicken fillets, turkey breasts, etc. It is FDA and AFCO approved when it fits the product definition. FDA is the organization within the United States that controls the approval process of new ingredients for animal feeds. Next, another traditional ingredient is soybeans. This is an oil-driven market, something that a lot of people didn't realize, including myself. But in an acre of soybeans, there's more value in the oil than there is in the protein. So when the oil's taken out, soybean meal is left over. And this is a higher protein than in the original bean because the oil's been removed. This soybean meal can be further processed into protein concentrate. And there are now many new products being produced and brought to market using alternative processing, including fermentation. And so it's not just soybean meal and soy protein concentrate anymore. There's a variety of products out there. Also, a big change coming in soybeans is their new high protein genetic lines that have decreased anti-nutritional factors. And that includes the lipoxygenases, lectins, trypsin inhibitors, oligosaccharides, which are the indigestible carbohydrates for monogastrics, and phytate and the P34 allergen. There's been decades of research going into this, and there's a lot of research going on with these new products. Okay, mixed nut feed is, I think, a good example of a regional ingredient, and we really need to start looking for ingredients wherever we can find them. It'd be great to find another soybean meal, but we don't have the land mass left to do that. Mixed nut feed is made from nuts that cannot be certified for human consumption due to size, color, breakage. Pistachio and almond industries are primarily whole nut markets. California alone produced over 2 million metric tons of nuts in 2010, and it's been said that 40% of the groves have not come online yet, or they're not old enough to be producing nuts. So we're going to see an increase in this material. Typical analysis includes 60% crude protein, 10% fat on an as-is basis. We've also found that there's a feeding stimulant effect when adding mixed nut feed to a diet. There is a pilot plant in operation, and it's been commercially fed to trout for approximately 3 years. We have completed the 7-phase evaluation with good results, and there are published manuscripts out there, and it is FDA AFCO approved. And in the U.S., the FDA process is probably the slowest anywhere in the world. I'm sorry I don't have data for other countries, but if it's approved in the U.S., it's probably approved elsewhere as well. Barley protein concentrate. This is an interesting product because it's made from barley that does not make malting grade. That is, it cannot be used for beer because it's low in carbohydrate, won't produce the right level of alcohol because the proteins are too high. And so farmers have traditionally taken a hit in price when they don't reach the malting level. Unirrigated crops are most likely not to make malting grade because they don't have the water at the end of the production cycle to swell the grain and put the carbohydrate in. Typical analysis is 62% crude protein, 7% fat on an as-is basis. This process also produces ethanol at the same time, unlike corn ethanol production plants where they're designed to produce the greatest amount of ethanol possible. This process really focuses on maintaining protein quality, but also produces some ethanol from the carbohydrate portion of the seed. 7-phase evaluation has been complete and looks very good, and it is FDA AFCO approved. But it's called barley protein with yeast due to the fermentation. Guar Protein is another co-product from human food industry, although there are also industrial uses for guar gum, but guar gum is an emulsifying agent and found in ice creams and sauces and a variety of different products. There are many small farms in Pakistan and India that sell to a processor. When the guar gum is removed, the remaining meal is approximately 60% crude protein, 7% fat on an as-is basis. There is a large-scale production because of the many uses of guar gum, and there is consistent supply available. 4 of the 7-phase evaluation has been completed, but we have seen a very positive effect on waste management from the guar meal, and this is due to some residual guar gum in the product. And it is FDA AFCO approved. Insect meals have been getting a lot of attention lately in the press. This is primarily black soldier fly larvae and mealworms, but numerous species are available worldwide. It's a very flexible processing method, and these insects can be grown on a variety of substrates, including post-consumer waste, that's restaurant scraps, seafood processing waste, DDGs, bakery waste, etc. What is fed to the insects, however, really affects the proximate composition of the final product, but also when the insect is harvested will affect the proximate composition, and it varies widely, so I'm not going to present that here. Different companies are in various phases of scaling for production. The 7-phase evaluation is complete for black soldier fly larvae. Mealworms are in progress. FDA FGO approvals in progress for several different species, but black soldier fly larvae meal has been approved by FDA FGO. And mealworms have been approved in Europe, I believe. Bacterial meals. I hesitated to even present this because it's such a large category, including a wide variety of species. That's both its strength and its weakness, but a variety of substrates can be used, dry substrates, liquid, methane, CO2. Nutrient composition can be altered by changing the growing conditions in the fermenters. But it's generally a high protein, low lipid product. Because of the wide variety of different processes, each process is in various phases of scaling for production and an evaluation of the product, and FDA FGO approvals in progress. Algal meals, very similar to bacterial meals in the variety of products that are available. Both macro and microalgae are being evaluated. There's been quite a bit of work done with microalgae. Both phototrophic and heterotrophic methods of production are being used. Phototrophic meaning in outdoor ponds, as is shown in the center picture and right-hand picture, and then heterotrophic is in fermenters, as shown on the left-hand side of the screen. These microalgae have been shown to be good sources of EPA and DHA, which, as I mentioned, are the heart and brain healthy fatty acids, which could be used as a replacement for fish oil. There's a lot of good protein sources out there, but very few sources of these essential fatty acids. Proximate composition varies by species and processing. Various phases of scaling of production are in progress around the world, actually. And then the FDA FGO reapprovals in progress for the heterotrophic DHA algae sources, of which there are several commercial products available today. So with that, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or you can contact me at the email address below. Thank you.